And now for something completely different.
Relax. I find that to be a very dangerous space in which to place your mind in, because it is an illusion again. It is an illusion again, but at the very same time, you live in a world where you constantly mask your failures.
With absolutism.
You constantly mask your failures, because therefore these benchmarks don't exist. Therefore, there's nothing for me to attain as them. I have already attained them. It's just that,
Being a human being is the goal.
We
have arrived already.
No. You must be able to accept some local realities. If you have managed to take the journey from micro to macro and understand how irrelevant and insignificant everything is, you still have to come back with that grand understanding and exist in your local universe, because at that particular level, that's where reality exists the way it does. And for you to continue understanding the macro, you have to be living in harmony with the micro, where you are subscribing to the local universal principles and being realistic, being realistic enough to be long enough to be around to push the boundaries into the areas that you want. Yes.
Do you think that's what Walter Mwambazi was doing when he said that women should be, wives should be bitches in the bedroom? Did you see that post floating around this
When?
You haven't seen this?
No.
Oh my Lord, I need to find this. Just give me a second.
My guy, Walter Mwambazi.
Just kidding.
Winners Chapel. Where we are.
Yeah.
The Winners Circle.
Yeah. Walter Mwambazi, Facebook. It's been all over this social media place, this entire, I believe it was a WhatsApp post or something of the nature, but it was, it sounded more like Andrew Tate. You know what I mean? It was going on the grounds of, I may be paraphrasing here, but it was going on the grounds of women. You should don't be afraid to initiate sex. You know what I mean? And if he needs you to be his bitch, then in the bedroom you can be his bitch. And I'm not paraphrasing that part. And that's what interested me a lot. Yeah. Because from my perspective, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that post, right? Well, there's a lot of things wrong with the post, but there's nothing wrong with him making that post. But in our society's eyes today, it's like shock and slaps mouth and oh my God, what's this moment? Where do you think something like that would come from?
You see, first of all, the commission and the advice is in a way totally unnecessary. Because again, subscribing to local realities dictate that the way you are is going to affect the way somebody is going to be to you. So if personally you want that kind of a situation, it will naturally play out, with your expression of dominance and needs and wants, your position basically, as a man and what you basically want. It's nothing that needs to be forced. We are all very flexible human beings, we are all very flexible human beings, and we do quite a number of astonishing things, miraculous things, in our private spaces, If you are on your own account failing to, create that kind of a situation for yourself, you don't necessarily need to come out and, start declaring your inadequacies and, giving it as advice.
What if it's coming from the opposite direction? What if he has succeeded in life, right? This is somebody who's known in our circles as a successful person. What if this is part of the success and is trying to put us together?
I don't think that would be the education then. You see what I mean? That would not be the conversation. If you have attained a certain level of understanding, the way you deliver information for the public to consume is in a very specialized way. You know, you just don't create unnecessary antagonism and misunderstandings in the process and then begin to engage. No. Already people are guarded and they're going to start defending themselves. They've already established positions.
Yeah.
You know, it's very difficult to teach a people that have established positions, because what they have is waiting for a chance to speak their position, as opposed to hearing what this is going to be like. You know, they will be waiting to basically jump in and give their position. So they won't listen to you. What you will just have is a bang against wits. You know, it's a bang against wits. No, I do not accept your position there. Because in the first place, in the way that it is presented in a very argumentative way. You know,
This is why you have passive-aggressive phrases like, let's agree to disagree. You know, I totally disagree with that. Like when people say, let's agree to disagree, I'm like, no. I still don't agree with you.
Exactly.
I'm denied. You're not in charge of the agreement. Yes?
Yeah, so it's the delivery. There are many things to discuss around some of these issues that sometimes it doesn't even need to start at the intercourse level. At that end point,
So that's
you know.
question I wanted to ask you. What do you think he was trying to say? You know what I mean? We're saying like clearly there was information he was trying to pass on, right? And he packaged it in a manner that dissuaded his listeners or his people from the actual message. So what do you think the actual message in that moment was?
I guess the actual moment, the actual message from the from that whatever it was, is first of all destroying the tenets of tradition, right? How a woman is defined and what her behavior and attitude basically is supposed to look like. Which lacks a lot of freedom when you see that there is no expression, where women are not necessarily allowed to express themselves freely. Like, for example, it was such an issue if a woman puts on a miniskirt, but that's her expression of freedom. But there seems to be a dictator to that expression. And so women may have been confined in these spaces and rooms where they feel very restricted in their expressive nature, such that even when it comes to intercourse, you know, they need to be a bit more reserved. Like tradition, you know, would say that you have to wait for a man to approach you, you know, and suggest things for you to basically take them up or not.
Be a gazelle.
You know, be a gazelle. You know? But you know, you as human nature is that that's not your default position, you know, in nature. You know, your default position in nature is such that you are just a human being who has got desires, needs, and wants. And what are you if you're not pursuing or going after the things that you want, simply because society will perceive you in a certain way? So I guess it's saying also that society has significantly changed. Men are more accepting. Men are less traditional than they used to be a couple of years ago, or you know, a decade ago. That things have slightly changed, and I think it is about time that you also just did what you wanted to do. And he was referencing sex, that you have sexual freedoms. there should be no shame in you presenting your needs on the table. I guess probably that is, you know, what he was trying to say.
I mean, he came. I found it interesting that it almost feels like he's trying to break out from the band, you know, because like he represents a certain faction of society.
It is very strange that
which is where the most pushback is coming from, you know.
Very strange for me that in everything that I have said around this, I have not acknowledged how insulting it is. Within his circles, within his circles, that you cannot begin to use such derogative terms, towards women, but. Not that he was referring to that would be my understanding, and not that he was referring to
your
women.
hope.
Yeah. Not that he was referring to women as bitches. But basically acting like the freedom that a female dog has.
How would he know
in its wilderness.
Where did you learn this information? These are the...
You see, the thing is, we think that pastors, reverends,
live in
bishops,
a separate world.
Live in a separate world. We live in the very same communities and we share the very same information and knowledge. So
and activities.
Yeah, and activities. We do the same things. Yeah, thank you very much. But we kind of try to separate them and think that their circles are different. The only people whose circles are different are judges. Have you ever run into a...
Is that a judge calling? Yeah, but I get what you're saying. I've never hung out with a judge.
Yeah, I mean, because think of it this way. What will a judge be doing in society? In society.
Yeah, that would be the worst place.
Yes.
That would be, it's like a cop behind bars.
Because you are the decider. It's like a cop behind bars. You are the decider of many people's fates. So families have been affected by your decisions. So therefore, they are very restricted in the way that they actually move and associate. Their company is because you can, at the very same time, if you exist in the very same society, be biased in your judgment calls. So they have to make it in such a way that you will be able to judge everyone fairly.
That's a lonely life.
They live quite a very lonely life.
That's a lonely
life.
Those are the people who read and write books.
Yes, exactly.
Those are the people who are writing books. I get it. Not to judge them. They can't judge the judge. They are the law. Speaking of judging people, right now countries are facing judgment. Various countries across the world, I believe Zambia inclusive, for abstaining from a global vote on the cessation of hostilities in the Gaza Strip. There was a call for a ceasefire, and they did this very interesting thing in the world where they carry out a vote over something that's clearly wrong. You know what I mean? Like, okay, just to be sure we are right, let's have a vote. And people are up on, as usual, the public town square, social media, and talking about how we have lost our way as a globe. Like we are right back where it all starts from, in looking at things as referendums, but it all ends in the death of millions of people, and we are disenfranchised towards it as these groups of things known as nations, but it also made me wonder, like, how do you establish the moral compass of a nation? Like, I would believe a nation would be a business entity first. You know what I mean? It's not an NGO. As an establishment, So why are we expecting it to have moral obligation?
One of the things that personally I believe we have misunderstood, as a collective, and it's due to basically just misinformation or just rebranding, terms. Morality. Because you speak of a moral compass for a nation.
How do you establish that?
The challenge to start with is over the fact that morality has been very much misunderstood by the majority of the population. In the sense that we think that morality is something that is intrinsically given unto us. And it is something that is equally written down, by the gods or higher power, that
it's one of the rules of nature.
Yes, that human beings, have this moral code that is written upon them. That's a very big misconception. Therefore, we do not understand what morality is. Morality is well-being.
I believe you said this on this very podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Morality is well-being. And if you understand the concept of well-being, it gives birth to selfishness. Because well-being has to start with you as an individual. What makes you well? You can start with the basic needs. Yeah,
If I'm allowed to be, it will be. I'm being well.
I'm being well. You can start with the basics and go on the hierarchy of needs. And you can obtain all of these things, right? Shelter, food, water, sex, What is at the top of the pyramid is what? Self-actualization. In self-actualization, that is where there is what you would call true success, which is arriving at a point of being well. So arriving at a point of being well, you as an individual, it means that you will have to participate in society. You will have to compete in society. Everything has to be in your favor, basically. You see, looking after your children, for example, is in your favor. Because it will be against your favor if you don't look after your children and the complaints then start to come. It means that your life on that particular side is filled with distraught, is filled with dismal feelings, is filled with sadness, is filled with bad emotions. It's not that you're getting a positive message or a positive response if that is not being done. So everything is done in your favor. Understanding that and taking it now at a country level and looking at it from a business perspective, you therefore understand that you can band together and call yourselves a country, a race, a people, a tribe. And you can try to exist as one organism with interests for your well-being. Which means that with those interests, you are willing to do whatever it takes for you to be well. And those are the small things that lead to war. Seeing yourselves as a collective and looking after your well-being. It's like, for example, the Americans saying, the Mexicans are crossing the borders too much and taking our jobs. That is speaking from the perspective of your well-being. But this person is also looking after their well-being as a Mexican, crossing the border. They are looking after their well-being.
Yeah, and he's going to ask you who made it such that the jobs are on that side of the border.
So you find that the well-beings begin to get into conflict. Why? Because there's competition.
Yeah.
Why? Because we are consumers. And the amount of things that you consume is basically what makes you.
You literally are what you eat.
Exactly.
You literally are what you eat.
So, in establishing, therefore, a moral code for a country, you really have to look at it from a business perspective, therefore. That you need to understand basically how other economies work and governments work. I am of the view that the American government is basically run by corporations. I mean, it only makes sense. Because what are you really governing if it is not the productivity of the nation and the well-being of the people?
The productivity is what's going to lead to the
yes.
people.
So the productivity of the nation has a lot to say in the way forward. If your GDP is about $20 trillion, that's a lot of money. But within that $20 trillion economy, there's a company there that is worth $4 trillion. Can you fathom a company that is worth $4 trillion? Put it into perspective. Zambia is about between $32 and $40 billion GDP. $40 billion. So imagine how big this particular economy is. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, if you have entities that are that powerful and contribute a significant amount to the GDP of the nation, it means that it will be involved in the background in setting policy. Policy on how we do international business. Who we let into the country and do business with us. Because you are the business entities. So you are the decision makers. So there's no way a government can actually be run just by the Senate or whatever you would call it. No. Those are simply the experts that carry out the instructions of the corporations. Oh, that's what you're talking about? Let us convert it into this, and it becomes politics. But it is something that is driven by industry. So, picture this now. If we bring this idea back down to Zambia, and we now completely and totally understand that governments are run by industry, by corporation. So it also means that a government of Zambia is equally run by the industry of Zambia, the big companies, the mines. It means that these are the decision makers, these are the policy makers. But what is interesting here is when you realize how powerless we are as Zambians, because most of these big corporations are not ours. So if they are not ours, what does that mean?
That means we've got no say.
That means we've got no say. It means that policy is being created for us outside. And what we're simply doing is adopting. The direction is being driven by these multinational companies. Guys, come off where you, eh? My button on this internal organic.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, so kulolea. Okay. So anyway, watch my pace. So it means that we and our governments are not very strong, because in fact, from that $32 billion that we generate yearly, we would be good. We would be good.
Yeah?
We
would be where we need to be.
It means that it is actually coming probably from a chunk of potentially $70 billion or $100 billion. But because none of this is really ours, it means we also have shares in what is ours. You know? Yes. The foreign states give us shares. You know? So what decisions are we going to basically make here? And this is where, as citizens, we find it very unnerving.
Find it very what?
Unnerving.
Unnerving.
We become a dictionary.
I'm like, that's digging up there. I found him behind the house unearthing.
Yes.
Unearthing my mother's flowers.
No, it comes to us as a shock when one of our fellow citizens stood up on a podium and promised us change. The way we as citizens see it.
The way we understand.
With the way we understand it, including him. And then he went and then he entered into their system and he realized.
Got unearthed.
He got unearthed. Say, no, you're just on the surface. No, I can't. No. What is underneath here is not yours. It becomes extremely difficult then to function at that new reality.
That's what Thomas Sankara was talking about. You know, that's what he talked about at that last UN conference that he went for, and where he said, like, it may seem like the hand of colonialism has left, but if we do not figure out our own trade very soon, then we have just given the game away so easily. You know why? And he was saying, like, I've come here dressed in clothes made in Burkina Faso by Burkina Faso people, you know, designed by Burkina Faso people. We can all do that, but for some reason, you guys seem to be under this mentality of just wanting to dress Western, and all this is going to cost you in the long run, you know. And back then it was just an ideology, you know. This is a freshly free Africa. Right, this is the 70s. And it's like this Kamsango you have for wanting Shonchon and things like that is going to get you in problems again. And that was the last time that man spoke at a UN conference. But he was like, if you guys don't band together, this will be the last time you see me here. And looking how many years in the future, it's almost like, you know, unnerving.
Very much.
It's very unnerving.
We brought this term woke, and we found it stupid because the people that brought it could not really present it with the intentional meaning that, you know, it has to the idea of being alive and aware, conscious, cautious of your very immediate and far environment. I'm well.
Yeah. This was the first time I employed your stare. And you looked away. But somehow I looked over the rims of my specs. Yes, where were we? You were saying wokeness. The reason why the concept of wokeness failed.
The idea is
That's a
is
fact.
deep. Yeah, is deep and is well-meaning. And it is more so for us. But you know, what I hate the most and detest the most is the idea. Is the idea of being talkative. Yes, I appreciate the form of being solution oriented. You know, and we as a race have been very well known for being outspoken. You know, and we have outspoken
on podcast.
Yes. We are storytellers.
Yes.
You know, we are storytellers, and we love the art of storytelling because we couldn't write. We got used to just sitting down and telling each other stories. So we love it. that we can also go into a perpetual state of criticism, of just loudly talking and shaming systems without having no practical idea of how to go about resolving this as a challenge and acting towards that. Probably recognizing the role you've got to play. And it really doesn't take a lot that it leads to what you would call freedom fighting. It just takes changing your immediate environment. It really just takes you alone, just change, because you can't fight. It's too bigger. But if you just change your immediate environment and begin to operate that way, it's a virus. It's a virus. If it works, it's a virus.
It grows. Yes. Somebody comes into your environment and says, you know what I mean?
It's not about someone you think needs to be in government, joining government immediately. Yeah,
I mean, that's our... it's like the Christmas conversation, right? We, as African society, we aspire to certain things just by virtue of being in the position we've been in for a while, right? We have got certain aspirations that I think are the ones, even before we can call them success, they bring us just to par with the rest of the world, I want for people to accept me. If we then and they sungu like this, you know what I mean? And those are some of the things I think. I think like our need to show our wealth is a lot of that. To think like now I'll be able to talk to people when they see my car. I think this is what will balance it out. It's not even success to them. You know what I mean? It's just reaching your level to be able to talk to you man to man. That's where I think that comes from. This thing of just looking like their need for, like even this same body's need for auditing everybody's English, I'm like, that's not educational. You know what I mean? It's not like, you're not packaging that like a lesson.
It's just fucking around.
Yeah, and not only fucking around, fucking with people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not, that's not a lesson.
Yeah.
The lesson there is like run when you see me pull out my camera. I would believe.
But this is where we have to be careful with the selfishness of people. That in the interest of their well-being, we can be victims. Because here is a person that wants to
content.
that wants to basically interact with the world. He sees it as part of his well-being because he desires that, global attention. He desires that, populist attention. So therefore you become victims of this person in their journey and quest to achieve that for their well-being, for their self-actualization. So now you simply become victims to people's assumed self-actualization, which is truly not self-actualization, because you see, if you think about self-actualization, it's not popping out into people.
It's really got nothing to do with anybody else. It's got nothing to do with anybody else.
It's just yourself. The day that you decide to go back home, the day that you decide to just go back home.
Answer the phone call that has been coming from inside the house. You have been ignoring it.
Just that day.
All right. Let's pick it up.
Because, in yourself is a place of rest. In yourself is a place of rest. That if you were attacked by others, you would retreat into yourself and you would protect yourself. Because you know yourself so well, such that other people's words directed at you like knives cannot pierce you.
Yeah, they do not.
Because you know yourself enough to retreat and tell yourself to say, no, don't worry about that. that gentleman is simply confused by wow. You know, you've been through these things as well. You remember wow. It's like, why kalaweka pachipuna mtu mumu why ikarika so why ever wawela no gwasangata. That is the case. You know, the more you take to understand just yourself is the more you take to understand everybody else. Because them boy you see what I mean? So nga why tontonkanisha sana why start educate when why something that when why is but the other kama weaknesses na ma strengths why is if you apply system maneuver just upon yourself that you will achieve this self actualization. And self actualization is not many monies. It's not many monies. Because even those with many monies have many troubles. You know, have many troubles where the major troubles is having to contend with themselves. Oh, this is wonderful.
Lovely weather.
Emma weather, I have banging and the key. So, what was we?
We're talking about self-actualization is not having a lot of money.
Yes, it's not having a lot of money because even...
That might, in some cases, that might even inhibit your self-actualization. You know?
Because as we have probably talked about this, in the sense that at life there are many things to achieve. And money is one of those. But it does not necessarily directly relate to everything else.
It's not all of those.
It's not all of those. Even those others require the same amount of effort that you put in to earn money. Yeah. You know, as we said, to earn happiness requires a great amount of effort, you know, to work towards it.
Thus comes self-actualization. Mitch, what do you have to say about self-actualization?
It's the silly conversation around what makes it into heaven.
I love how this podcast always goes back to our great
because you see a lot of things you know come from there. I realize almost each and every day how deep those religious philosophies actually are and affect us. Even as a person who has left that container, you know, this is evil. You know, if there was video around, you know, then you would understand. You can't just walk across it.
Or you're dressed in black.
Ripped clothes. You know, what was I saying?
You were saying...
how every day we get to realize just how we apply religious philosophical thinking to some of the things that we encounter, even as people who no longer, you know, subscribe to, you know, to it.
I mean, there's no unsubscribing from it.
Yes,
if you're fair with it, because you live in a Christian nation.
Yeah.
You know, by law, there's no unsubscribing to it. Legally, you have to operate, and somehow, in some shape or form, you're operating under Christianity, one way or the other, or religion.
You know how friendly Christianity is?
It's not. That's how friendly it is. Not.
It is so friendly that we are very lucky. We are very lucky that we are not arrested by the government if we are not baptized by the age of 30. Yeah, wild, yeah. It would actually be a crime.
If you're not circumcised.
Yeah.
You're going to jail. Who's this baby? Just prisons full of babies.
But the silly idea around why people have not thought about what makes it into heaven. We simply have this one very criteria that is centered around us, all right? You have to do God's will for you to end up in heaven.
God's plan.
What about animals? For them, it's just straightforward, right? Everything else is just straightforward. Because Takwa sins, you know, a cat has committed a sin. You know, a Kanye has committed a sin. You know, Takwa, guys, but I need free life.
Think about all those mosquitoes you have been killing.
Now, the question is, would it be, what would the fly be doing in heaven? What would the fly be doing in heaven? What would the mosquito be doing in heaven? What would maggots be doing in heaven?
What would be the point?
What would that mean?
Doesn't that just mean that everything from here needs to go there?
So it would be a nuisance to have flies. You see, it would be a nuisance
to go to heaven
It
because
would
we're
be a
moving
nuisance.
everything.
Listen, it would be a nuisance to have flies in heaven, because then it would not be heaven if you have to do this, you know? Do this because the mosquito came. Then that would not be heaven, because there's also no killing. So I buy a mosquito. Wow, hey, there's no medal. This is
Go to the cry.
Yeah. So what would make it into that place?
Babies. 1 day old babies.
No,
who are
but
still
you
in
see,
shock
even
of.
babies are criminals. That's
What do
why.
you mean?
That's why they need to be baptized.
We're sinful by
Yes,
nature.
sinful by nature. We are born sin with
What a
sin.
shock. What a trap. Like, doesn't anybody question this?
Like, wow.
Like,
What did I
isn't
do?
it just so coincidental that there has to be a condition for you to be baptized at birth? And that condition is that you came into this world full of sin.
Yes.
Where did I come from? Where there was this much sin,
Yes.
your mother's womb. You mean to tell me that my mother's womb is full of sin? You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? It's very disrespectful of these Christians.
It's a sinful place.
What do you mean?
You see, if there's one thing that is feared by all religions, is sex.
That's why it's a sinful place.
Yeah. Sex is so demonized
Where did they
by
come
religion. Sex is so demonized by religion. It's so feared that in other religions,
Why do you think?
women are forced to have a uniform.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think religion has got this obsession with sex?
It's because it was written. It was. I don't think it was written for that purpose. It was written at that time, and explains the thinking of that time, of very little knowledge in the world. This is how they operated. This is how they understood each other as men and women. These are the roles that they gave each other as men and women. But discovering sex and relationships, bondages, kind of gave birth to a selfish thinking of man.
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 Not mankind.
Yes,
The unkind man.
That upon the discovery of sex, it was so sweet, so gratifying, so special, so just the two of you.
Just the two of you.
Yeah, you know, all this shouting and screaming has never been heard before.
Oh yes, it has.
You know,
In church.
oh Father, exactly. You know,
Pick up the place.
exactly. You know, it has to be unique and very special. So we begin to craft ways of buying this other gender.
Religion.
Yes.
Those are the original slaves. You know what I mean? If you are to contextualize, women are the original slaves.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
They are the first enslaved human being on this earth. You know.
You know, Women are like Joseph in the Bible.
From day one.
Joseph in the sense that except at the birth of Jesus, in his late years, Joseph was nowhere to be spoken about. He was somehow written off as an inconsequential man, expressed about so sadly that he's only in a few chapters. And it is in relation to this guy.
This other guy.
Yes, if it wasn't for this other guy, we would have never even heard about you. Who are you? You're just a carpenter.
I found an interesting parallel between men and women and Africa and its surrounding environment. You know what I mean? I find it very similar, the way that we talk to women and the way that the West talks to Africa. You know what I mean? Where it's like very, very, what's the word, the one the women like saying when they want to break up with you? Very gaslighting. You know what I mean? Because you guys are special, you guys are, you guys, in fact, let's make things fair. Let's give you a bit of something. And it's like, they're just like, no, we want the whole thing, it's ours.
At the core of being a human being, what is true power?
Love.
Let's say if we sat a woman and a man at a fair starting point. You look at the nature of a man physically, you look at the nature of a woman physically. The first man and woman. What would be true power in that instance?
Love. The ability to make someone feel.
It's absolutely okay. But what I'm looking for is just slightly different. In the sense that it wouldn't be about the man's physical stature that he would be the king.
Oh, you're describing power like that.
Yes,
like what's going to give
yes.
one an edge over the other?
An edge over the other.
You see, that's a man question. Why do we need that?
No, what I'm trying to
Like
create here is an understanding. It's an understanding
But don't you
that
feel like
there is no true power, because where is it going to come from? Oh, you got strength, or I can, become pregnant.
From infliction.
Oh, I also have a brain. I can think. I can make something that can defeat you.
From infliction.
So where would the power really come? Where would the need? Because we have the same brains. Essentially, we have the same brains. We somehow have this same capacity of thinking. We somehow have. No one is less than the other. Because you've seen a woman that is smarter than a man, and you've seen a man that is smarter than a woman. Just as you have seen a man that is smarter than another man. And just as there is a woman that is smarter than another woman. So if you think about it from a fair point, you find that it is totally irrelevant.
This is why I say the person who holds the true power is the person who is able to give love.
No, I didn't disagree. I just wanted
You know what I mean? Because
take that journey
beyond all these boxes we have made for our differences between us and women, our physicalities, our what. If we removed all that, all we want from each other is love. And we get it in different shapes and forms, by force, by, by trickery. But that's all we want. The person who is able to master that love is the most powerful.
Love is simple. Love is simply trying to create a protection area. And everybody else that ends up in your protection perimeter is protected. You don't have a perimeter that if people come in, the quality EDF flower, the summer fair. What flower is that?
Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
Weird. Every time I see something that I haven't seen in a while, I find myself in a situation where I have to use that word. Just today, like about 3 hours ago, someone sent me a picture of a Venus flytrap, and I haven't seen a Venus flytrap in the last 10 years.
And that's how we think we are smart.
I wonder what that is.
That's how we think we are smart. Because if we do not explain the process to how we know some things, others will think that you just walk around knowing things. What is everything do? Not knowing that there are actual processes that lead to, and that's why we have imposter syndrome. Because somewhere deep down, then you know.
You feel like you shouldn't know something.
You know, because for you it was just a normal thing. You didn't even know that you were becoming, you know. You just came across it in your world. The man is going to do witchcraft in the kitchen.
No, I played a very dangerous game with myself. I've lost to myself today. So I was putting these things here and ashing in one of them, hoping that I know which one is the one with the drink. So this last round I went. That's why I laughed, because I checked this one. This is the one.
Venus flight trap.
Yeah, I lost to myself. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, it's all to you, sir. No, you are very free.
To do what?
Do what,
sir?
What was I saying?
How did we end up on this?
If you have a perimeter that you have created and it is just a trap, then you're not practicing love. Where you are calling people into your circle to die, you are killing them.
It's not love whatsoever.
If you are killing people in your perimeter, then you are not loving. So love is really just about creating that protection area, and everything that falls in there.
That's what I mean when I say that's the most powerful person. You know what I mean?
Is able to do that.
I don't mean the assumption that attention and affection equals love.
I clearly know, but you see, it's not just. So
I forget it's not the two of us.
Some things.
Sorry guys, we forgot about you. My bad. Speaking of which, I wonder when we're gonna listen to this on this. Calm down. We've got a couple of messages. We want to check a couple of the messages from the previous episodes that we uploaded. We uploaded 4 episodes to our YouTube.
Yeah.
And did you say
Yes.
And I would like to. We got some interesting comments on some of the episodes. So Pokunda says this is a good question. He was asking, what even is reality?
So it says first episode.
It says this is a good question, and the profound personal perception, and there is profound personal perception from both speakers, which is interesting because we're talking about what is reality and what informs reality, and is mentioning our perception. You know what I mean?
Like, we're just subjects to it.
Oh, now he has become a subject in our reality. You know what I mean? We have informed him with our perception.
Yeah.
You know? Where else? So somebody else who peeked at us. Somebody said cool visuals. Thank ya. Somebody said watching this on the National Day of Prayer.
Must have been the
and the
third
episode was the deconstructing religion. The third episode. It says watching this on the National Day of Prayer. And then he goes on to talk about loving critic. That's not sensible. We don't self-gratify. He says interesting takes here. Another person says interesting takes here. Definitely something to think about. Great, unique podcast, gents.
Thank you very much. No, but I damn one.
I'm really curious to know what people are going to think about the other episodes, and just Also, I wanted to put it on YouTube, so there's a public platform, like sort of like
to go back to
a board where people can put their takes, you know, because it's not just us talking. I'd like to hear what people think about these things that we talk about.
You know, I deeply get that. You know, it's just slightly different in the sense that it's not about some individuals in society. You know, we don't make it about some individuals in society. That they can spark a conversation. They can spark a conversation, but in trying to get at that, it's not about that individual. It's about the general populace. It's not about, you know.
I mean, we're describing, especially when we use an individual, that's just an example of the behavior we're describing. We're talking about something that's generally done. You know, but we're saying, you see, even somebody at this level does it. You know what I mean?
But if you list the episodes that we have done so far, even from the titles, I mean, you should know from the start that we are just trying to talk about something different. And it's really not so different. It's really mainstream conversation, but in a different way. You know, just in a different way, tackling things from a different perspective. You know, because we've been seeing things the same for so long. Yeah, you know, for so long. You know, and sometimes when you keep seeing the same things, you must know that, you know, there's no movement.
Stagnant
you know, there's no movement here. You know, thinking must change over time. It is perfectly fine. You know, knowledge grows over time. It is perfectly fine. You know,
confidence versus arrogance. We've done the African premium. We've done Chamanyama. Chamanyama is study in what? A study in parenting. Rustic with the Q, social media and what in society, deconstructing religion. Boys to Men was one of my favorite as well. 200 million babies was another one. Limitations of belief. We keep coming back to this. You know, one day to just be like the Kachasu Philosophers Hate Religion podcast.
You know, but it's also something to acknowledge as there are many things.
There's other things in the world.
There's other things in the world. You know, there's other things in the world.
Don't be stuck there.
Don't be stuck there. It's just a small component of your life. You know, you even barely use it. You know, you don't.